Welcome everybody, it's Mike Newton here at Lytham Golf Academy. In this video today we're going to have a look at the new Titleist 718 series, and in particular the AP1, AP2, AP3. And I'm going to put them all together, hit some shots here, and we're going to have a little look at the differences of distance between each of these irons. It's quite interesting here because obviously Titleist have launched a new model in terms of the AP3, and they're trying to obviously sit that in there between a bit of a crossover between the AP2 and AP1. So AP3 is offering obviously loads of distance, but with more of a nicer AP2 look. Obviously not quite as small as AP2, but a similar sort of look to the AP2. AP1's a little bit chunkier, a little bit more offset, again for more distance. And AP2, obviously the forged iron, more loft there for more consistency and playability for the better player. So loft-wise, these are all 7 irons. Loft-wise, AP1's 30 degrees. The AP3 is 31 degrees and the AP2 is 34 degrees. Okay, so AP2, AP3 similar, there's only 1 degree difference. AP2 obviously is 3 degrees weaker than AP3 and obviously 4 degrees weaker than AP1. So obviously we're going to see some distances between those. But I think the interesting one for me is between AP1 and AP3 in terms of do we see anything different on distance. Obviously AP3 is a hollow design head here, obviously some tungsten in there. They've got some tungsten in AP1. AP1's got that bigger undercut at the back here. So AP1 and 3 aren't forged, and AP2 obviously is forged. Okay, so what we're going to do here is going to start off. We're going to start off with AP2, traditional iron. We'll get some numbers with that. We'll switch into AP3, and then we'll switch into AP1, and then we'll have a look at some numbers to see if there's any difference in that ball speed, spin, obviously, and distance as well. Right, okay, so I've set myself up on the simulator here, 180 yards away from the green, and I'm going to keep it at that distance for all 3 irons here. So we may start to see a difference of, I'm guessing AP2 might be sort of maybe front quarter of this green, and then the other 2 might start be getting to the back of this green possibly. As I say, these are all 7 irons here. So we're going to start AP2. I'm going to keep the same shaft in all 3 of these heads, okay, and they're all 2 degrees upright and ½ inch longer, which is my sort of spec. So we're going to start AP2. Give this first one a hit. Okay, so nice opening shot there. You know, AP2, as you know, I've done a review on here, it feels great. You know, it's a forged head, it feels soft, it's a nice high towering ball flight. Generally got quite a lot of spin on there as well, so it's obviously aiming a little bit more control there. Okay, so there's all the AP2s hit there. You know, very typical flight I'd expect from this iron. High, it feels soft, it looks like it's stopping very quick on the greens here. So, you know, obviously a very much of a favourite iron for me personally. I like the look and the feel of that extremely. So let's move on to AP3 now. So we know this is a little bit stronger than the lofts, and we'll see how that stacks up against AP2. Right guys, so some nice shots there with the AP2. So now I've got AP3 in my hand, same shaft, just switched it over into the AP3 head. 7 iron again, but we know this is now 31 degrees, so stronger on the loft, a little bit more of a hollow head design here. It's not forged. Okay, and as I put that down by the golf ball here, straight away I'm seeing a larger appearance, but that larger appearance is more from sort of heel to toe here, so it's a little bit longer in the blade length, tiny bit more offset, and a tiny bit thicker on that top edge, but not massively thick really. Again, I think this look-wise sits in the range beautifully. But let's see how it fits in, obviously distance-wise. Now, Titleist are claiming some big distances with this, bigger ball speeds. Okay, so I'm still 180 from the green. Let's get this first one hit. Okay. Still a high ball flight there, definitely still a high ball flight, and that felt really powerful off the club face. Definitely a louder sound than the AP2. Obviously, it's not forged. AP2 is forged. Yeah, I'm seeing a little bit more distance there, but definitely a bit more of an explosive sound off the club face. Okay. Right, so there's a batch of shots hit with AP3. Definitely a louder sound there. Very much louder on that noise, obviously probably because of that hollow design. Obviously it's not forged there, so the sound's a lot louder to me. I obviously prefer the sound of the AP2 much more there. It still provides a really high ball flight. I'm going to be quite interested to look at peak height of those, because even though, yes, we're 3 degrees strong on the loft, it still launches out there really quite high towering ball flight. I'm sort of seeing straight away a little bit more distance there. I'm interested to look at some spin numbers there also. But before we do all that, let's go to AP1. We'll hit a batch of shots to that, then we'll look at some numbers in a bit more detail. Okay, so now AP1 in our hands. So obviously this is a 718, the new AP1 here. So the Titleist are really aiming this at being really much a distance golf. Very forgiving, lots of distance, more sort of forgiving or confidence inspiring look. And I think when I put that down by the golf ball, it looks chunky. It's a big jump from AP3 that we've just hit there. So definitely more offset. The finish of it is a little bit more, it's not as a silvery satin, it's a little bit more duller, a little bit more of a smoked finish there. The top line is thick now. Okay, so we've got a lot thicker on that top edge. Just looks a lot meatier behind that golf ball here. Obviously it's striving for maximum forgiveness here with this iron. Now the 7-iron here has dropped down 1 more degree here, so this is down to 30 degrees of loft. So again, it'd be interesting to look at launch and peak height as well as spin. Let's give this first one a hit. Same shaft here as the others, by the way. Okay, another different sound again there straight away. A little bit more of a clippier sort of sound there against AP3. A little bit more of a tuning sort of sound, if that makes sense. Definitely a little bit lower on the flight. That looked like it was spinning less as well. Be interesting again to look at that spin number. Right, okay, so there's the AP1 hit there. Bit of a strange feel. I mean, the sound was a little bit clippier, probably because of that hollow back there. The acoustic sort of echoes a little bit, it gives it a little bit of a tinnier, it's a bit like the ping sound, to be honest, that pingy sort of sound. The flight definitely looked a little bit lower there, but it didn't visually look like it's got out there much further there. So I'm going to be really interested to look at some numbers here, and probably more so the spin numbers here in particular. So let's just go and do that. Let's go and look at some numbers in a little bit more detail between AP2, AP3, AP1. Okay, so let's look at some numbers. So I've just had to cut a little bit off here because I can't fit it all on one screen. But basically AP2 there at the top, we've got the averages in that grey box. AP3 with their averages, AP1 with their averages. So let's look at club head speed first. So 94, 94, 95. So a bit quicker than AP1 there. Didn't really feel that, to be honest, but obviously it is what it is. Ball speed, 124, 126, 128. So, you know, that's probably what we'd expect in terms of ball speed gains with a loft situation. Okay, launch angle 18.7 AP2, 18.9 AP3, and 16.6 with AP1. So again, loft situation, the loft is definitely dropping lower there, which I definitely saw the AP1. Very similar, to be honest, with AP3 and AP2. Probably that hollow construction AP3 does get that ball launched, and even though the loft is stronger, so that's probably explain that a little bit. Spin number, so 7-1, dropped down to 6-3 with AP3 here. Now, we did have a low one in there, which is obviously more my strike than anything else there. Let's pull those averages down. So, guessing You know, on a fairly decent strike there, that'll probably get up back up to 6.7 sort of area. Okay, so a little bit less than AP2, but not a huge jump there. Now this is a real surprise. I can't quite get my head around this, because this is the least lofted one. It's the more, what they're calling the powerful one, which generally speaking we see some very, very low spin numbers. But that's quite high. In fact, it's higher than AP2. I mean, I did have a low on there, AP2. Again, that's more my strike than anything. But to be fair, the AP1 I felt like I struck particularly well. I like the sound of it. The look I didn't like as much. Obviously, it doesn't please my eye there at all. But I can see what it can do for a lot of golfers. So look at distance here, 170 carry, 177, 176. So that I'd expect. These I'd expect. I was thinking I was going to get more out of that, because I didn't think these numbers would be as high, particularly AP1 here. So I think if that was more around AP3 strike with that little bit more ball speed, that I would have got quite easily into the 180 carry mark. But it hasn't, you know, and you know, that's the reason for doing these videos. It's testing these clubs and seeing how they're sort of performing. So peak height 37, 39 AP3 did look like it launched really high and stayed in the air a lot longer, which it seems to have done there. So 2 yards higher at peak height. And back down at 36 there. That did visually look a little bit lower, to be fair, but maybe the spin's just keeping it in the air and getting it climbing a little bit more. Right, guys, so there we have it. A little test there between the AP models in the new 718 range from Titleist. So, you know, three sort of nice sort of models there. I mean, obviously AP2, AP1's been there for a long time. AP3 slotted in there. It seemed to make a lot of sense before I tested anything like this in terms of what it's trying to do, because I always felt there was a big jump from AP2 to AP1. You know, also the loft was a big jump, but also the look and the feel was poles apart, and the head size as well. So AP3 for me, look-wise, sits in there perfectly. You know, you've got that little AP2 appearance there, but a slightly bigger format. You've got that hollow design, a little bit more forgiveness there. The colouring and the shaping of the head is very, very similar to AP2, obviously just slightly larger in that blade length. It is a different sound, but it's hollow, it's not forged, so as I saw through the test there, the sound was very, very different to me. But for me, look-wise, sits in there beautifully. I think looking at number-wise, distance-wise, it sort of overlaps AP1 very much. Now, the lofts are very, very similar. Obviously, they're both claiming to be distance irons, they're both claiming to be forgiving irons here, and I agree with that, I think they are. And I probably wouldn't bother me too much that there's a difference there, because I definitely feel there's a market for AP3 purely on the look. Okay, a lot of guys would love AP2. Looks great, players iron, they see it on tour, you know, it's a desirable iron for a lot of golfers here, but so many golfers aren't good enough to play with it. You know, the strike pattern's not there consistent enough, and they want some more distance. So then it's a jump to AP1, which to me is a big offset, massive top line, and a lot of people go, "Oh God, that looks too chunky." And that's exactly where AP3 will fit in for me. You know, it's got the looks there, it's got that little bit of performance there, it's got that ultimate forgiveness there, which I think is really important. So I think that's a really good seller there. So it's quite an interesting one to look through there. You know, we've seen that difference of ball speeds. The distance is maybe not quite as what I thought. I thought the AP1 would get out there a little bit further. Spin massively surprised me with AP1 under that sort of test there. But you know, test this is it. You know, I'm human. Like, yes, I'm a golf pro, but I don't always hit the same part of the club every time. So these spin numbers will change, and my delivery may be different to somebody else. You know, so I will create some different launch and spin conditions than the next golfer. So this is where it's my personal test. This is for me. I'm not saying that is set in stone. You know, go and quote all these numbers. You've got to go out and these test themselves. Now, Lytham Golf Academy, we are a fitting centre for Titleist. So we have all the heads here, all the shafts. So obviously, if you're within the region, come and give us a shout. You can come and get your hands on these and give them a good testing on GC2 HMT. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Do comment down below if you found this video interesting. Maybe see, you know, you tell me what iron you think you'd get into, and maybe comboing. You know, that's always an option. Obviously you've got to look at those lofts there, but comboing is an option. Maybe AP3 long iron, AP2, or the other way around, you know. You comment down below. Please hit that subscribe button, follow me on all social media platforms, and hopefully I'll catch up with you all very soon.